Your plane ticket. Oops, forgot to buy it. Haha, sorry. I told my boss that I was the only one without a plane ticket for the company trip, which is why everyone around us burst into laughter. Eventually, the group arrived at the luxury hotel without me, but then the hotel manager told them something. He's not here, so you can't use the facility. Yes, this is where my revenge on my boss began. My name is Tyler Brown. I'm 40 years old, and I'm a company employee. I joined this company right after high school, enduring daily harassment from my college-educated boss, Ethan. Lucky you getting into this company with just a high school diploma, he often says. Ethan values educational background and doesn't accept anyone without a college degree, so he's relentless with me. But I have a reason for sticking it out and not quitting. Sorry, it's always my fault you're in trouble, I say. Not at all, Grandma. You raised me. Consider it payback. Yes, my only family is my grandmother. She hurt her back and can't move around freely, so I take care of her with the help of a daytime helper. With my parents gone, she took me in and raised me, so quitting my job is out of the question. I just want her to always be happy. Driven by that sole purpose, I keep on working. She seems to enjoy spending time with her helper during the day, so I want to maintain that lifestyle for her. So, I went straight to work after high school without going to college. My grandma regrets not being able to send me to college, but I just want her to enjoy life without worrying about the past. Got any hotel recommendations for the company trip in 5 months? One morning, our department head, Michael, asked all the employees during the morning meeting. The trip was in 5 months, and he was looking for a hotel to stay in. Knowing little about the local accommodations, Michael was asked by Mr. Smith, the CEO, to gather suggestions from the employees. Remembering a hotel I stayed at near that tourist spot, I eagerly raised my hand. Yes, I've stayed at a hotel around there before. How about that one? I suggested, referring to the hotel I once stayed in with my grandma. After I told him the name and location, he happily agreed to check it out and report it to Mr. Smith. Anyone else? If not, I'll report Tyler's suggestion to Mr. Smith. All the employees agreed with Michael's call, and the meeting ended. As I returned to my work, I hoped my suggested hotel would be chosen. It happened that hotel you mentioned is a luxury hotel, isn't it? You, a high school grad and bottom-tier employee, stayed there, quit lying, and showing off. Suddenly, Ethan appeared before me. He seemed to know about the hotel I had suggested to Michael. I'm not trying to show off. It's a place my grandma took me to when I was little. The view from the room is great. It's spacious, and I just thought it would be nice for everyone to stay there, I explained. His condescending attitude still bothered me. But Ethan just laughed more upon hearing it. Your grandma took you there. That's hilarious. If you were really rich enough to afford a luxury hotel, you'd have been sent to college, wouldn't you? He ridiculed me without any knowledge of my family circumstances, as if it were a matter of course. Just because someone has graduated from college doesn't necessarily mean they're superior. But I couldn't talk back since Ethan is my boss. After being berated, I went back to work, though not in the best mood. I'm home. Are you okay? You seem down. Returning home feeling low, my grandma greeted me as usual, but looked worried seeing my state. I wasn't just bothered by what Ethan said. I also had to tell Grandma about the company trip. Participating in the trip means leaving this house. A helper takes care of Grandma during the day, but I've always been there at night, so we need someone else. The company has decided to go on a trip. Oh, that's great. You work hard, so why not take a break and go? Grandma's casual response surprised me, but sensing my hesitation, she continued, Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. We've got the neighbor lady nearby, so don't worry about me and enjoy your trip. Our neighbor is a slightly younger elderly lady who's always been close to my grandmother. It seems my grandmother had arranged for her to stay over at our neighbor Susan's house. Thanks, Grandma. Her reassurance brought a smile to my face, and I continued to tell her more about the trip. Later on, the company decided to hold the trip at the luxury hotel I recommended. It was a 2-night, 3-day getaway packed with luxury to reward the employees for their hard work and contributions, complete with sightseeing at the destination. Looking at the distributed itinerary, I felt excited. When Michael called me over, he said, "Sorry to ask, but could you handle the flight and hotel bookings?" "I'm not great with this stuff. Leave it to me," I replied, happy to take on the responsibility after having recommended the luxury hotel to Mr. Smith and Michael. "Wow, you won. Mr. Smith loved the hotel you suggested, and he's looking forward to it." Hearing this from a pleased Michael raised my anticipation for the trip. Arranging everything would ease the burden on Michael and Mr. Smith, and it felt great to be helpful. I quickly booked the flights and hotel reservations for everyone attending the trip. The next day, as other employees checked the reservations, they noticed a discrepancy in the number of flight tickets. "Tyler, it seems we're 1 ticket short." "What? I'll check it right now." I hastily opened my computer to review the purchase history. Comparing it with the list, I realized something. "Sorry, I forgot to book my own ticket." Realizing I had omitted myself from the list made me chuckle, which was joined by my colleagues who helped me check. "It's good to prioritize others over yourself," one teased. The office filled with laughter, creating a pleasant atmosphere. However, Ethan and some other college-educated employees chimed in disapprovingly. "It's not just forgetting. If we hadn't noticed, we'd have been scrambling because of you on the day." "That's true, but well, Ethan, let's leave it at that. We noticed it in time, so it's all good. Now that all the reservations are done, we should proceed with buying the plane tickets." "Ethan, I'd like to pass the baton to you this time," Michael asked. Ethan looked dissatisfied behind my work, but nodded, then snatched my reservation documents and quickly disappeared. At that moment, I had a bad feeling, especially because Ethan seemed unconvinced. But surely he wouldn't go as far as to sabotage a major event like the company trip. "Take care and have fun." "Thank you, Grandma. Please, Susan, take good care of Grandma for me." Then the day of the company trip finally arrived. With my suitcase in hand, I bid farewell to my grandma and our neighbor Susan and hurried to the airport. I was ready to enjoy the next 2 nights and 3 days as a reward for my hard work. Upon arriving at the airport by taxi, I saw some colleagues had already arrived. Ethan was distributing the plane tickets, another employee told me, so I went looking for him and saw him chatting with some college-educated employees a little distance away. "Good morning, Ethan. Can I have my plane ticket, please?" I approached him, and as he noticed me, he shot me a painful stare. To my surprise, Ethan just smirked and laughed. "Your plane ticket. Oops, forgot to buy it. Haha, sorry." At his words, the college-educated employees around him burst into laughter, some holding their stomachs. Ethan was laughing so hard, he was in tears. "So funny. Sorry, I forgot to buy it, but you forgot a reservation once too, so we're even right." Ethan dug up my past mistake, seemingly to justify his own. He had deliberately not bought my ticket. The fact that this was the case filled me with shock and anger. I had reached my limit of tolerance. Apparently, more than I thought, I finally exploded in anger at Ethan's harassment even at such a time. "I understand. If that's the case, I'll cancel my trip right here." "Cancel? You've come this far, and you're canceling. You can buy a ticket on the day, right?" Who would willingly buy their own ticket when it's supposed to be covered by the company? Even if I did buy it myself with you around, I'd surely face harassment at the destination, I shot back. Ethan looked at me as if he had won. The best action for me was not to participate in the trip. Of course, my reason for this choice would become clear later. It might look like I'm giving up, but it's actually a strategic retreat. I had no desire to buy a ticket on the day to join this trip, knowing how much Ethan and the others dislike me. I'd rather gracefully step back. I thought you'd beg to join, but this is a letdown. Don't worry, we'll enjoy the trip enough for you. Just stay and take care of your grandma. Maybe you should consider a career change to a helper. Puh. Ethan's words again caused an uproar of laughter. Other passengers and employees arriving at the airport looked annoyed at Ethan and his group, but they didn't care. Unable to stand being around such insensitive people, I turned around. Michael and Mr. Smith had arrived yet? Please tell them I'm canceling. Goodbye. Sure thing. See you after. I told the rowdy group and left the airport. What happened to Tyler? Later during roll call, Michael noticed my absence. Tyler said he suddenly felt unwell and went home. Is that so? I hope he's all right. Looks like everyone's here then. After the roll call, everyone boarded the plane under Michael's direction. Soon after, the plane departed and safely arrived at the destination, a popular tourist spot. Meanwhile, I returned home, put down my carry-on luggage, and then went to visit our neighbor Susan. Aren't you supposed to be on the company trip? Susan was quite surprised to see me back. When I told her I returned because I felt unwell, she became extremely worried. Her and my grandma's concern, suggesting I rest immediately, made me feel comforted. I have people who worry about me like this in my everyday life. But in reality, I wasn't ill at all. I just couldn't bear the harassment. I received a message from Ethan earlier and returned home. I didn't want to cause them any unnecessary worry. Glancing at Susan's clock, I realized that by now Ethan and the others would be arriving at the destination. Thinking about them moving to the luxury hotel I recommended by evening, I couldn't help but smile to myself, secretly smiling under the blanket I borrowed from Susan. Neither she nor my grandmother noticed, and before I knew it, evening arrived and everyone reached the luxury hotel. Looking up at the impressive luxury hotel, the employees' expectations, having thoroughly enjoyed the tourist spot, grew even more. Come to think of it, Tyler was the one who reserved this luxury hotel, saying the group reservation should be under his name. Should work, right? Ethan said this, and an oblivious Michael followed him to the reception. Upon getting the company name, they checked the reservation. Which of you is carrying the membership card? Confused, Michael and Ethan tilted their heads as the receptionist explained. Our hotel accepts reservations and stays from guests who have a membership card for a group. The person who made the reservation would typically be the representative and have their name on the list. We left the reservation to our employee Tyler, so it should be under his name, right? Michael, realizing they might not be able to stay without the card, showed signs of panic. Thinking mentioning my name might help, as I made the reservation, he asked, "The reservation is listed, but where is Mr. Tyler Brown?" Either way, without presenting a membership card, you cannot use our hotel. Tyler suddenly felt ill and couldn't come, so we don't have his membership card. Ethan began to show signs of panic, his voice of frustration spreading among the surrounding crowd. The employees looked anxiously at Michael and Ethan. "I'm sorry, but get the manager out here. I'll talk to them." Hearing Ethan's words, the receptionist switched with the manager. "I am the manager here. I've checked again, but without Mr. Brown, who made the reservation, you cannot stay." The hotel reiterated that they couldn't stay as per the reservation list. However, Ethan became even more irritated and threatened. "Get the CEO out here." The manager heard and reached for the phone and made a call. "Are you available? I'll come to you. Please wait." Understood. The manager had called the hotel CEO, Mr. Johnson. After hanging up, the manager informed Michael and the others that Mr. Johnson would be coming to the reception. "What's going on here?" Our company's CEO, Mr. Smith, having heard about the commotion, arrived and Michael and Ethan explained everything they had been told by the manager. Meanwhile, Mr. Johnson arrived with his secretary. "Nice to meet you. I'm Johnson, the CEO of this hotel. Thank you very much for your courtesy." Everyone swallowed hard at the sight of both CEOs meeting, unconcerned by the tense atmosphere. The two CEOs exchanged business cards and spent a moment inspecting them before putting them away. "Actually, I've just been informed by my employees that we can't stay here without a membership card." Yes, the guest who has the card supposedly fell and hasn't arrived at our hotel. Mr. Smith looked anxious, but Mr. Johnson maintained a smile throughout. As Ethan became increasingly suspicious, Mr. Johnson was about to make a shocking revelation. "Mr. Tyler Brown, the guest in question, called me earlier. He wasn't actually ill, but couldn't come here because a malicious employee didn't give him a plane ticket." A malicious employee. At Michael's words, everyone's gaze suddenly turned to Ethan. He was the only one who had openly shown malice towards me, so everyone unanimously directed their stares at him, making him even more flustered. "It wasn't me. Don't lie. I heard it at the airport." Ethan told Tyler he forgot to buy his ticket. "Is that true, Ethan?" Mr. Smith confronted Ethan, who seemed to be in doubt, looking around for help in a panic. But with witnesses present, no one defended Ethan. Even the college-educated employees pretended not to know him. Ethan, looking frustrated, finally confessed the truth. "It was just a light-hearted joke. He's only a high school graduate and always tries to outshine me, a college graduate. I couldn't bear the thought of him going on the company trip, so." Ethan admitted he didn't buy my plane ticket. Mr. Smith scolded Ethan for his actions. "What have you done? You've ruined our much-awaited trip. Does this mean we have to sleep outside on our first day?" "Don't worry, Mr. Smith. As an exception, we will allow you to stay tonight without a membership card. I have a long-standing relationship with Mr. Brown, so I cannot let his colleagues sleep outdoors." "Thank you. You've saved us." Everyone was relieved by Mr. Johnson's consideration. Now that everyone knew Mr. Johnson and I were acquainted, Ethan spent the day quietly, a change from his usual behavior. "Thank you for your cooperation." "Not at all. Please don't worry about it. Please extend my regards to Dorothy." After everyone was settled in the hotel, Mr. Johnson called me, and I expressed my gratitude. Upon hearing what had happened, Mr. Johnson was an old friend of my grandmother and had been close to us for many years. Since my grandmother hurt her back, I hadn't been able to visit or use the hotel. When I mentioned introducing the hotel for the company trip, he was very pleased and had been looking forward to seeing me. But unfortunately, things turned out this way, leaving me feeling apologetic. I promised to visit him again with my grandmother and ended the call with Mr. Johnson. Afterward, everyone returned safely from the company trip, but Ethan was severely reprimanded by Mr. Smith and Michael. His deliberate omission of buying other employees plane tickets and the harassment towards me and other high school graduates came to light, leading to his transfer. After his transfer, I heard Ethan ended up in an apartment where the head of the department seemed to be a very strict man, and he had to be disciplined every day. I hoped that he would learn from this and stop prejudging and harassing people based on their educational backgrounds. Long time. No see. How have you both been? Thanks to my grandson, I'm always in good spirits. Several years later, I visited Mr. Johnson's hotel with my grandmother, who was in good health. We couldn't make it to the company trip years ago, but I'm really glad we could visit together this time. The reunion was a joy for Mr. Johnson, and my grandmother was all smiles in the welcoming atmosphere. I felt deeply moved, knowing that it wasn't just my effort that brought about this happiness. It's all because of the connections we've made. I thought to myself,